Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Israel Brief, brought to you by Lay of the Land and hosted by myself, Rolene Marks. And just a reminder that we bring you those top stories making headlines in Israel and the region every Monday to Thursday on our various platforms. Where can you find us, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because you can find us on our Facebook page at Lottel Site. If you haven't already liked or followed us, please do so. Or you can find us on our YouTube channel at the Israel Brief, and we would love it if you click on that red subscribe button. But back to your headlines, and we ask a very important question. Is the circle of peace growing bigger? Well, it appears that it could be. So all aboard, ride the peace train, because Israel is reported to be in talks with the Comores to normalize ties with the Jewish state. This is reported to be initiated by the United States and would add to the Abraham Accords, which already features normalization agreements between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, and the Sudan. Now, Comores is a Muslim majority country that you can find off the coast of Africa. And to add to this, Israel's regional cooperation minister let slip in an interview to an Emirati website called Emir. He said that it is possible that we could see normalization agreements also signed with countries like Qatar, Oman, Tunisia, and Malaysia, which would be really, really significant. We can't discount the size of a country like Malaysia and its strategic position in Asia. Meanwhile, you and I are not the only people who use Zoom. The foreign ministers and secretaries of state of the United States, Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and India all met on Zoom yesterday. They had a meeting, and the result is that they have formed an economic forum which will boost trade and cooperation between those countries. And just moments ago, it was announced that the United Arab Emirates Crown Prince has invited our Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, for his first official visit to the United Arab Emirates. So we love that peace seems to be contagious. And if you are playing normalization bingo, perhaps you can bet those odds on those countries mentioned. In other news, earlier today, Israel was rocked by an earthquake believed to measure about 6.4 on the Richter scale. Thank goodness no damage was caused, but the IDF Homefront Command have reissued their guidelines. It is believed that the earthquake originated just off the Greek island of Rhodos, about 600 kilometers west of Haifa, and the tremors were heard from Cyprus all the way to Cairo. Some friends of mine in Herzliya reported feeling the tremors, but thank goodness no damage was caused and nobody was hurt. In other news, the IDF have announced just moments ago that they will close off certain areas around the border with the Gaza Strip, as it is expected that Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad could escalate violence. They have put an ultimatum on Israel. They want $8 million of money coming from Qatar to come in by the end of today, or they will threaten renewed violence. And our final story takes us to remembering somebody very, very special. Yesterday, the former U.S. Secretary of State and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Colin Powell, passed away at the age of 84. Powell was the first African American to become Secretary of State and was a much loved and respected individual and military man who also offered advice to both Republican and Democratic leaders. He served in the Reagan administration, in both Bush administrations, and also served in the Clinton and Obama administrations. Somebody who was much loved, but it was his relationship and his ties to Israel and the Jewish people that we want to acknowledge. He was born and grew up in New York and often mixed with members of the Jewish community and could reportedly speak Yiddish. And he went on to achieve greatness in the military, becoming a 4-star general, and often spoke about his admiration and his ties with Israel's military and also the state of Israel. He reiterated time and again about the strong bonds between Israel and the United States, and tributes have poured in from Israeli leaders like Prime Minister Bennett, Foreign Minister Yair Lapid, leader of the opposition, and former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who acknowledged his extraordinary career and his strong ties to the Jewish state. He passed away from complications from the COVID-19 virus and is believed to have been fully vaccinated. Our thoughts and our prayers are with his family and friends and the American people, and our prayers are that his memory is eternally blessed. So those are your top stories making headlines today. Don't forget to check out our website on www.layoftheland.online, what will be loaded pretty soon. A phenomenal and very, very interesting and sobering article on Irish anti-Semitism by Fionn Grunspan, so keep your eyes peeled for that. It will also be up on our Facebook page, and as I mentioned before, if you haven't already liked or followed us, please do and share our content today, as Facebook demands that businesses and organizations pay vast amounts of money for exposure. We really depend on your cooperation in sharing and liking to get our news across. We're also on YouTube. If you like our content, please give us a like, a share, and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us get Israel's side of the story to as many people as possible. And we're on Twitter. You can find us at Lay of the Land 5. So with the Tuesday edition of the Israel Brief and those top stories from Israel, I'm Rolene Marks, brought to you by Lay of the Land, and we'll meet up with each other again tomorrow.